The following podcast is a deep, shallow dive production.
And you're gonna love it.
Okay, let's go.
All right, so before I even jump into my spiel, I'm going to say Danaka Katovich, because I kept on pronouncing your last name wrong. Cat's like a cat, I guess. Danaka Katovich. All right, listen, everybody. Super fun episode today. We've got Danaka here. She is from CODEPINK, the CODEPINK Army, as I like to say. And if any of you guys, well, I hope you guys follow the Deep Shallow Dive Instagram page, you'll know that I repost and remix a lot of the CODEPINK videos because these girls, and I should say some guys, because there's some guys in the mix too, they go hard. They go super hard, and I love it. And really, this is a nonprofit organization. And so it's actually really interesting for me to talk about nonprofits. I haven't had any nonprofits on the podcast, but you guys are like activists with a purpose. And when I look at all your stuff, honestly, the most refreshing thing to me is your message is not partisan. You know, I probably think the majority of you might technically be Democrats, but still, you guys are all about the anti-war message. And I love how over the past year of me following you, you've gone hard at Russia, Ukraine, and you've gone hard with Israel, Gaza. And so to me, honestly, that's credibility to me, you know, because right now, when I look at the landscape, and I've talked about this on the podcast a lot, it's like the Democrats are all pro-Ukraine, pro-war there. The Republicans are all pro-Israel, pro-war there. And there's a considerable group of Americans that are really starting to gain a real voice. And you guys are one of the leaders in that, where we're like, hey, we don't want war anywhere. There's no reason for war. So anyway, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on. I've been looking forward to this.
Yeah, me too. Me too. All right, let's jump right in, because this past week, I think, I believe she pronounces it Medea. She's maybe the founder of CODEPINK, and she's definitely like 98 pounds of twisted steel and just all of energy. You know, she does an amazing job of confronting these politicians. And maybe this is part of your Washington, D.C. chapter, and I'll have you explain the chapters a little. But man, she went at Israeli, I don't know if he's the foreign minister or what he is, but Itamar Ben-Gvir, who is a incredibly right-wing, I mean, I find that guy to be a complete lunatic, but she went at him. And tell us about that.
Yeah, I think he visited 3 or 4 cities in the United States, and he was met with protests in New York and other places, but he was walking the halls of Congress, which I think is sort of crazy. But yeah, the CODEPINK and other activists ran into him in the halls of Congress and basically said, you know, you don't belong in the people's house. What you're doing and like what you stand for is completely racist. And you know, a poll came out last week. It's like 70% of Democratic voters, and I don't know the poll about Republican voters, but I do know the polls generally for Americans. We generally don't support arming Israel and generally do support a ceasefire. So having the national security minister that has been so flagrantly pro-genocide in Gaza was sort of mind-boggling. And Medea did confront him. She's Jewish, and she said, I think, you know, you're destroying my religion with your hate.
Yeah.
And she delivered a very powerful message, just non-faltering to his face, and he got angry.
I saw that. He got really angry. And you know what? I've said this before, and I want to say it again. You know, she's Jewish, and so she's got skin in this game. And I say this all the time. I'm not Jewish. I'm not Palestinian. I don't have skin in that game. I have skin in the game from a humanitarian perspective. But to me, it's even more credible and hits even harder when folks like her, who are Jewish, and they are speaking up, which I'm assuming can't be easy in her in her community or in parts of the Jewish community for her. But the fact that she speaks up for it, adds an extra layer of credibility. But yeah, he got really hostile. Let me ask you this. When they go into Congress and the buildings, are they met with security at all? Like, are they able to kind of, it never gets violent, but it gets verbally violent. And most of the time it's them being more verbally violent to you guys. But is there ever any like actual security that comes into the mix?
Yeah, it's funny. I have a few funny stories from when sometimes I go to DC, and I've been
Nice.
in Congress with Medea a couple times and got to participate in the bird dogging of these politicians. But we do, you do go through like metal detectors and stuff when you enter,
Yeah.
and then there's Capitol Police everywhere. And what's funny is Medea and I were in line to go into a hearing with, this was during the Biden administration, Secretary Austin, the defense secretary at the time. We were going to challenge him on Gaza. And before the hearing even started, we got kicked out by Capitol Police, which
Wow.
it's it's a public hearing in the people's house. There's absolutely no reason to be kicking constituents out of Congress who obviously, like, we don't have any weapons, we don't have intention to harm anyone. And all we are doing is raising the popular opinion in the United States, and we were removed by Capitol Police. But an interesting thing is, like, sometimes Medea will be walking around Congress, and some of the Capitol Police people are like, "Hey, Medea, how are you?"
That's funny. I mean, listen, she's such a lovely person. And again, it's hilarious. I mean, I'm just judging from the videos. She's probably 5 feet one, maybe 98 pounds. Very, very petite lady. And she's, I guess, maybe in her 60s, but she's a beast, an absolute beast. And she just does not back down. None of you guys do, which is amazing to me. It seems like right now, obviously the Republicans, you guys really bird dog. I love that word. You bird dog them and you confront them on the Israel Gaza stuff. But I've also seen a lot of amazing takes where you're bird dogging and confronting the Democrats, on some on the Israel Gaza stuff, but some on the Ukraine Palestine stuff. I actually discovered you in the video that you posted about Cory Booker when he did his, 25-hour marathon speech where in 3 minutes you said more than he said in 25 hours, So
Thank you.
tell me, I really did like that guy, and I want your opinion on that. He, what do they call that? They call that, oh gosh, filibustering. So he filibustered for 25 hours and he didn't even say anything. He did not make one mention of Gaza. He did not make one mention of what's going on there. And so to me, that's the stuff America needs to wake up to. But give me your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think maybe in definition it's a filibuster, but I think usually the filibuster is used to block a vote of some
Yeah.
sort, which he didn't even do. He wasn't even blocking an important vote where Republicans were going to cut Medicaid, for example. He wasn't even doing that for any reason other than to do it, seemingly, which is a big critique of mine. But yeah, he didn't talk about Gaza, and I think that's a large function that Code Pink plays in the political sphere in the US is waking people up to the idea that members of Congress, whose function is to represent the people, are not doing that. A majority of Americans want a ceasefire. It's a huge portion of the American public don't want to send weapons to Israel. So why Democrats like Cory Booker and Tammy Duckworth and votes have come up. It's not like they're just not voting on the issue. They have repeatedly voted on the issue to send weapons to Israel, and they have voted to send more weapons to Israel. And it's Democrats and Republicans alike. Democrats, it's only a handful of them that support blocking weapons to Israel, a very small handful.
Wow. Okay. That's interesting. I think a lot of people think that the entire Democratic Party supports that, but that's not the case. Wow,
No,
interesting, interesting. Okay, okay. How do you guys come up with the list of people that you're gonna bird dog? Like how does is there a divide and conquer, or is it just kind of who you get access to or who is roaming the halls?
it's literally whoever we see. anyone we see, we talk to. You could tell if they have like, even if there's so many members of Congress, I think Medea knows all of them at this point, but for me, coming in from out of town, I was like, I'm not going to know all these people. But they have a little pin that you can tell that they're a member of Congress. Anyone we see, it's worth asking the question, because in all of our videos, you'll see us asking just open-ended questions. What do you think about what's happening in Gaza? Do you know children are starving in Gaza? How do you feel about children starving in Gaza? Questions that would be relevant to any member of Congress,
Yeah.
right? And all of them have really bad answers. Like today, Medea asked a member of Congress, and I don't know who it was some guy, asked him if he knew that the World Food Program announced they completely ran out of food in Gaza. And he said, I have not heard that.
No, it's unbelievable how uninformed they are. And then another thing that I find interesting is I really do feel like they disseminate talking points to them, because most of the time when you guys or other people ask them anything, they regurgitate a script and they regurgitate very, very similar talking points, whether it's Ted Cruz or Nancy Mace, or or AOC or anybody. They literally end up saying, the Republicans for sure, I feel like they're getting talking points, on a daily basis or a weekly basis. But even the Democrats, a lot of times they're just saying the same thing. And many times, like you just said, there's not even an awareness from them of the real issues. And so, like, that's such a bigger problem that I do feel, though, people are waking up to, and you guys are playing a big role in that. You really are. You're really waking people up. I read the comments underneath your videos. I really do. And it's pretty amazing the awareness that you guys are creating. As far as Code Pink, is it set up, and maybe this is a good explanation about how nonprofits are run, is it chapter by chapter in states, in cities? How is it organized?
Yeah, so we have like our National Code Pink nonprofit, and it's a very, very small staff that support Code Pink. We have 4 staff, including myself. I support all the chapters in the Midwest because I'm in the Midwest. We have a staff member that supports chapters in the West Coast, East Coast, South. If people come to us we don't go to a place and start a Code Pink chapter. Like if we have no connections there, people have to come to us and be like, I'm inspired by Code Pink. I want to organize against war and educate my neighbors on war and imperialism. Then we like work with them to start a chapter and build out, a sustainable like chapter model. But we have chapters in, our DC team is mostly just in Congress, mostly all volunteers going around. Then we have chapters in New York, Chicago, 3 chapters in North Dakota. And then abroad, there's only London and Windsor, Canada.
Okay, got it, got it. And really, the mission statement, would you say, is anti-war across the board? Is that the main educational awareness that you guys are trying to advocate for?
Yes, absolutely. So we're a women's-led anti-war organization. So we include a lot of like feminist messaging, which was particularly important when the organization started in the early 2000s in the lead up to the invasions of Iraq and Afghanistan, because so many like neoliberal feminists in the US were saying that we needed to go save women abroad, but last time I checked, wars and occupations don't really do much for women except kill them and maim them. So it was important to have like a feminist message against wars and occupation, but our mission statement is educating on wars and imperialism and how it harms people in the US as well, because they literally siphon money out of your paychecks and send it straight to the Pentagon or the defense budget in simpler terms. So it's educating people on how austere the government is when it comes to things like giving you health care, making sure that you could feed your kids or get your kids insulin. And instead they like procure 6 F-35s when you don't know what the heck that's going to do for you. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
so
No,
that
I think again, like I said, there's really been an awakening. There's really been a major awakening. And you had said something to me when we were kind of having an initial conversation talking through this episode. You're like, dude, I'm just like a normal girl from Chicago. I like going for walks with my friends and watching either the Cubs or the White Sox. I forget which one was your team. but I love that because again, that shows me you're not you don't have an agenda. You don't have ancillary motives around what you're doing. You're basically just like, "Hey, I don't like seeing women and children killed, and so I'm gonna speak up about that." Right? I mean, is
Yeah.
that that's pretty much it, right?
Yeah, and that's become such a and unfortunately, I'm a White Sox fan. They can't win a game to save their lives. Record is 7-22. It is brutal at the time we're talking right now. But uh that topic came up when we initially talked because when we were talking the first time, it was the week that two prominent senators said as a matter of fact that Code Pink is funded by the Chinese Communist Party.
Yeah, that's right, that's right. I know Tom Cotton's said that 100 times. Who's the other guy? Josh Hawley, maybe?
Josh Hawley said it, and also Jim Banks from Indiana.
Oh, okay, okay. I haven't
And
heard.
they stated that as a matter of fact, and just for your listeners, we're not funded by China. I think I'd maybe live in a nicer apartment or have a car or something.
Yeah.
But we're not funded by China or any foreign government, just to put that out there. We pass audits like every 2 years, unlike the Pentagon, who's never passed an audit.
That is a great point, and you are right. And Jon Stewart did a great bit on that where he was interviewing some gal from the Defense Department, and she was just so snarky about like, I don't know. I mean, what's the question you're really trying to ask? And he's like, waste, fraud, and abuse. Like, why can you guys not pass an audit? So I love that. Thank you for telling us that you guys do pass audits and you are held to a standard in terms of showing the money trail. That's important.
Yeah, and the purpose of saying this about us, and like, let's be clear, if members of Congress or the federal government, because this was an issue under Biden too, they were just saying we were funded by China. My senator said it, Tammy Duckworth. And the purpose it serves is to marginalize our voices and isolate our opinion. When, like, really, I'm an American, I'm a baseball fan, I'm not cool with my country killing kids and using my money to kill kids. Normal opinion to have. In fact, most Americans have that opinion. And they have to justify ignoring the public opinion of Americans and people in this country. And they do that by trying to make us seem like foreign agents funded by terrorists, like stuff that doesn't even legitimately make sense on paper. Because they're saying it about the students that they've like arrested in the middle of the night as well.
No, absolutely. They're saying it about the students. They say it about Candace Owens. They say it about Tucker Carlson. They're like they're funded by Qatar or all of these things. You know, all of that stuff is just such gaslighting and it's such it's noise. It's just noise and it's deflection. But the problem is when their microphones sometimes are louder than your microphones. And so if the random person hears the same message 3 or 4 times from a congressman or a congresswoman, unfortunately, for that person that isn't willing to, put in the research to really understand what's going on, or quite frankly, even listen to what they're saying, they take that. And then next thing you know, they're parroting those talking points. Again, luckily, I do think social media has absolutely opened up the floodgates on the positive side in that it's given everybody a chance to get their message out there and it's letting the audience decide what they think is the truth. And that's why I read the comments under your posts because I'm very curious to see how people react to things. And I will say, I mean, it's very easy to spot the bots that are in there, like the ones that are like super negative. And then you click on their profile and it's like 0 posts, 0 followers, 0 following. It's like, dude, I always reply bot much and then let it go.
Yeah.
And let me ask you this, what right now for you guys, do you have weekly conference calls in terms of what you guys are going to focus on that week? Or is it really just kind of, I guess, reacting?
No, I would like to think that we're pretty proactive, I hope. And a lot of it they force us into being reactive sometimes when they say
Yeah.
we're funded by China and then I have to make a video being like, no, we're not. But We meet, we talk. I talk with our chapters in the Midwest all the time who organize more locally than on a national scale. Like they're trying to affect their neighbors, and they're doing like the real hard work of changing people's minds, like that they know directly, and educating their communities and having teach-ins, making this stuff accessible and not scary. That's the hard work
Yeah.
all of our local chapters are doing. And I hope I meet with them enough and talk to them enough, but they're
No, that is
all
hard,
brilliant.
and making it not scary, and also, honestly, like, empowering people to feel comfortable to speak up. I think that's a big thing right now is getting people at a comfort level, and again, whatever the topic is, whether it's like I end up talking so much about Gaza because that's just so in the forefront of everything right now. Even Ukraine's kind of taken a back seat or a
Yeah.
5 rows back now. It's really all about kind of the things going on in Gaza, and then how the Trump administration is reacting. Oh, here's a question: what have you guys seen as the difference between administrations? So, like, what was it like, for the first year and a half with Biden, and then what's it been like now with Trump?
Something interesting I think happens, and I've been with Code Pink since right before Biden's inauguration. So I've seen like the tail end of the Trump admin, the first Trump admin, all of Biden, and now this one. People are way more likely to join us in protests under Trump than they are under Biden, because
Oh,
they
okay, that's
don't want
interesting.
to ruffle feathers. And yeah, so people are more willing to like join us on our a lot more of our messaging when it's been the same under both. I can't.
Yeah, yeah. I get that, and honestly, I mean, that's kind of what I said. Well, I don't even know if I said it, but again, my bird's eye view, I would say if I took a poll of the Code Pink constituents and then even the fan base, it's going to skew Democrats versus Republicans if they actually put out their voting status. I think it may be more Democrats. So maybe that's why. Maybe Democrats that support you guys felt, I don't know, a little bit torn going after, their administration. You think that might have something to do with what you said earlier?
I think it's more of the general public than like people who are openly like affiliated with Code Pink,
Oh, okay.
because I think a lot of our folks are like nonpartisan. Um like people in our chapters and people on staff or whatever. It just I think generally in movement spaces, people are way more willing to protest under Trump. Like you have these, have you heard of the 50-51 protests happening?
I'm assuming in regards to Canada.
No, it's actually it's these it allegedly there's no organization like underlining it, but it's 50-51. They had a big protest on like I think April 9th or something, and they're having monthly protests, and they're like largely like liberals going to them, and like they have slogans like hands off NATO, which is funky. So it's they're in the streets for the first time in like 4 years. I didn't see
Wow.
them at any Palestine rally that we had, and also they don't really include Gaza in their messaging. It's kind of a
Okay.
case by case basis, though. So yeah, I think people are just more willing to protest Trump, like it feels more comfortable or something.
Okay.
Um, yeah, it's been interesting though, and I want to see more about what you brought up, that members of Congress regurgitating lies about movement people like Code Pink or whoever it is, because they're lying about everyone. It holds some sort of weight, right? And we were really freaked out that week that I talked to you when Tom Cotton said it, and in a hearing, like in
Yeah, he
official
said it in a
hearings.
yeah, yeah, he said it in an official hearing, which was like, I mean, again, for someone like me that pays attention, he he completely showed me what a idiot he is. But again, for the person that doesn't pay attention, who's like, "Oh my God, Tom Cotton just said Code Pink is funded by China. Wow, they must be." But go ahead.
Yeah, and we were really freaked out that week because we got into a situation at the RNC with Representative Van Orden, and he said something about Code Pink. I forgot what he said. He said Code Pink supports Hamas or something, and we got death threats to our official like phone number. So we were kind of freaked out when Tom Cotton said that we were funded by China. We didn't know what the official reaction would be, and we didn't want people to believe it, right? Because it was a lie. But they're really shooting themselves in the foot, I think, in their propaganda war, because literally this morning, the Trump administration press secretary, I don't know, the blonde lady, I don't know her name.
Yeah, Carolyn Levitt.
And there was a question about how Amazon announced they're going to show the prices with the tariffs on their website, how the tariffs like affect the pricing of goods that they sell on their site. And she said it was a political act by Amazon, and that Amazon is actually working with a Chinese propaganda arm. So CodePink and Amazon are allegedly both Chinese agents, but I think they got it. They're just throwing it out at everyone that I think it's like weakening the impact it's having a little bit. They're showing themselves to be quite ridiculous.
No, totally. Okay, what else? Is there anyone in Congress that supports you guys? Like, does Bernie Sanders, support Medea? Like, is there anybody that's like an advocate for you guys?
I don't think there's any member of Congress who would put their neck out and say all the stuff about China is complete nonsense.
Yeah.
Because either they don't like our opinion on Gaza, or the ones that have a good opinion on Gaza sometimes don't have a good opinion on Ukraine, and they take big problem with our stance on Ukraine, which, for the record, is the exact same stance we have with Gaza. No weapons.
Yeah.
We're an anti-war organization.
I want you to give us your stance on both back to back. What's your stance on Gaza?
Our CodePink stance on Gaza is that we want a permanent ceasefire and we don't want weapons to Israel.
Okay. What's your stance on Ukraine?
We want a ceasefire and no more weapons to Ukraine.
Okay. I mean, that's pretty consistent to me. And as somebody who is also anti-war, I'm like, okay, that's cool. They're actually like to me, that is not Democrat. That's not Republican. That's American right there. That is truly American. Like, if there's anything that is America first, it's that stance. We don't want our money and bombs going here. We don't want our money and bombs going there. Instead, how about we keep that money and invest it into the infrastructure of the United States?
Yeah, and that's another topic that's coming up a ton, is this America First thing. And I guess we could classify the Trump administration as America First if we're talking and referring only to companies like Lockheed Martin, Boeing, and Raytheon, who will get 50% of the $1 trillion budget for the Pentagon that Donald Trump's proposing. Taxpayer dollars, when they've promised to like cut the budget and cut wasteful spending. The Pentagon budget is essentially like a money laundering front for weapons companies who have no accountability to their contracts, who produce bad products and tax the American taxpayer for it, and make them pay all of their CEO salaries that never stop going up. And then Trump gives them tax breaks.
Yeah. No, that is the military industrial complex in a nutshell. What about RFK Jr.? Have you guys ever had any interactions with him?
At the RNC, I met a bunch of there were people in he had like a little bus, big bus. It was a big bus. And there were a bunch of like 20 somethings in there, and I think we talked to them. But I think he didn't support sending weapons to Ukraine, if I'm remembering right, but he has a horrible stance on Gaza.
He doesn't support sending weapons to Ukraine, but he has a horrible stance on Gaza. And he's been called out for that by Dave Smith, the comedian Dave Smith, who's done a lot of good stuff in that regard. Jimmy Dore has called him out about it. Yeah, it's pretty obvious. It's pretty obvious that he is not saying what he should say, especially considering all of the things that are out there in regards to how his dad and his uncle were killed. That's pretty wild, the stance he takes on that. I was wondering, like, with this, are you guys involved at all with like the Make America Healthy Again? Is that like an initiative that kind of hits you guys? You're more focused on war, anti-war. Let's stop killing, and especially let's stop killing women and children. Men too. Men shouldn't have to die either. But I really do love that you guys focus on that, because man, it's just heart-wrenching. It's heart-wrenching. And again, I've said this before and I'll say it again. And actually, I would love your take on this. I really didn't know anything about any of this stuff until, I don't know, October 20th. October 7th, I was like, oh, that's awful. Why did they do that? That's horrible. Like I condoned that. And again, then I started educating myself on the region, the history. Then I started learning, okay, wait a minute. Was this unprovoked? What was this? Who is Hamas? What do they even, what are they even all about? And I've got a lot of theories about that. But like for you, you didn't have 50 years of experience in this, right? Like did your education process kind of start with what you've seen play out over your phone over the past 18 months?
I was definitely involved in the Palestine issue prior to October 7th. I've been at CODEPINK and we've always worked on Palestine and the occupation specifically. When I was in the 5 years I've been at CODEPINK, I think there's been two major Israeli offensives in Gaza. The current one that we see now, and then there was one in May of 2021 where it was like a blip of what we've seen now, but just horrible images coming out of Gaza. But there was a ceasefire within, I think, I don't know, under a month. I can't quite remember. So I've been involved for a longish time, but I live in Chicago, as you've mentioned, and Chicago has the biggest Palestinian population in North
Wow.
America. And so I went to my classmates, a lot of my classmates were Palestinian, and it's not a far removed issue for them. It's not like their families have been here forever. It's like their parents, their grandparents were like faced the violence of the Israeli state in their lifetimes and they
Man.
can recall it. There's people whose dads have been political prisoners here in Israel. So it's more of like an exposure thing, I think, for me on this issue specifically.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, listen, where can people support you guys? How does my audience pay attention and support Code Pink?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to see the videos of us in Congress, we post so many every day. It's hard to keep track, but it's good to share them with like family and friends because it's really, really important for people to see how blatantly our representatives, I put this in air quotes, are ignoring the will of the people. So it's really important to see that. So follow us on Instagram. It's Code Pink Alert and then Code Pink on everything else. I think we have our website, codepink.org. If you want to get involved, join a chapter. That's at codepink.org/peacemaker. And then codepink.org/events. We have webinars. We have a summer school coming up. We'll have classes and a graduation and everything. It's totally free. Yeah, we have a lot of resources on our website and a lot of ways to sign up and be involved.
That's incredibly cool. I'll link all that stuff. And hey, listen, maybe next time grab a couple more people, maybe grab Medea and whoever else, and we'll do like a round table. I also want to get her and you actually involved in a debate series I'm going to put together. I'm going to try to like do my own version of kind of what Pierce Morgan does, but less volatile than the way he does it. But I do think that bringing people together that might have differing viewpoints, but are willing to engage in an intellectual and respectful conversation to hear the other side and discuss the other side. I think that's a benefit because I do think people want the truth. I really do. I think we're getting to a very critical point where people are waking up and they want the truth and they just want to know, what's the real deal with all this stuff. And again, I really do commend you guys. I think you are I love the non-partisan view, and you're one of the only entities that I've seen that, quite frankly, are consistent in their position. And that is no war in Ukraine, no war in Gaza. Like, I love that. Everybody else is like one or the other. And to me, when you're one or the other, it doesn't make sense. Even someone like Mehdi Hassan, where I love his advocate work for Gaza, but then he's just a huge like he's pro Ukraine to the gills, and like that doesn't make sense to me. I'm like, I don't get that. I don't understand how you're so wrong on one topic and you're so right on the other. So anyway, I applaud you guys for being right on both.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for having me. I'm sure Medea would love to come on as well.
We'll set that up for sure. All right, hang on the line. All right, everybody. Hope you guys enjoyed this. You learned a little bit. I'll put all the Code Pink information. And seriously, if you're on Instagram, I will link their Instagram profile. These videos, not only are they entertaining, because they are entertaining, but I will tell you, more importantly, it is incredible how professional and respectful you guys are, and how unprofessional and disrespectful people in Congress who have been elected to be our representatives, how they are in return to you. It's pretty disgusting. All right, hang on the line. Call a spade like Code Pink does. All right, everybody.
This episode was brought to you by the new book Deep Shallow Dive Into You, available now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble in hardcover and paperback. Don't forget to sign up for our new mailing list on our website at deepshallowdive.com.